I've been having a lot of fun doing software-based videos because it gives me an opportunity to kind of break out of my shell, no pun intended, considering today we're going to be talking about PowerShell. But anyway, it allows me to kind of explore other ways to make the system fun and useful and kind of tweaked and tuned to our own use case scenario. Especially as much as hardware sucks today, it lets you kind of get more out of your hardware. So over the years, we've kind of showed a lot of different utilities that were like, nobody should be without this utility. And the one utility that continues to come up in the comments of every single video is, Jay, check out the Chris Titus toolkit. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. It's not all rainbows and unicorns though. There's some things I don't like about this. However, it is probably one of the most powerful all-in-one type of utilities you could possibly have that fills probably about 90% of everything we've already showed you as independent pieces of utilities in one rolled up bundle. So today we're going to finally talk about the Chris Titus, not to be confused with Christopher Titus. That's an actor guy. That's different. That's a different guy. Today's video is brought to you by our brand new GPU Apocalypse 2.0 shirt, kind of immortalizing all of the stuff you love about today's GPUs. Our GPU Apocalypse 1.0 shirt was actually one of our most famous and popular shirts, and now it's re-immortalized with GPU 2.0. But let's face it, the Apocalypse never went anywhere, it just evolved. Just like this shirt. Go buy it now. So I'm going to give obviously a huge shout out to Chris Titus. Make sure you guys go and check out his website. He's also got YouTube tutorials on how to use his software. It's actually not really software as much as it's more just a GUI that's running commands in Command Shell, but it makes it very simple and centralized to know how to use it. It's come up quite a bit, but there's two ways that you can utilize I'm going to call it CTT. That's what the acronym is for the Chris Titus toolkit. There's two ways you can run it. One, there's a free way, and two, there's a paid way. And I'm going to say right now, I have done this both ways. I've paid the $10. I think it's highly worth having the $10 download because then it's running off of local. Whereas if you do it the free way, it's running through an internet connection that's needed. So this allows you, if you don't have internet, to be able to do this offline. So let's go and do the first way. The first way right here would be to just, by going to christitus.com/windows-tool. I will put a link down below. Hopefully we don't crash his site. I have no idea what his hosting is like. It's a very popular tool, so maybe his hosting is good. I apologize, Chris, if I brought your site down, okay? I apologize. I hope I didn't use up your bandwidth for the month. But moving on, you can see right here, we can just click copy in the one command download usage. So then we'll hit our Windows button. We'll type power. From the search, you can just type power. Windows PowerShell can come up. Do run as administrator. Then we can just Control V that copy paste into here. Now this may look like command prompt. Let me clarify. This is PowerShell. Windows PowerShell is not the same as command prompt. It'll look very different. One of the ways that you can tell is it starts to colorize the text as you're starting to run commands. So if we do that, that will then basically bring up a PowerShell. There it is right there. It's downloaded the WinUtil admin and it's auto running it. There's the CCT in good old macro artwork right there, or ASCII, if you will. And then here is the GUI. Now that is the free way. And like I said, that will require an internet connection because basically all you're telling the Windows PowerShell is to go online, grab this utility, download and run it. But what we're going to do right now is I paid the $10 to have the executable. So I highly recommend you do that. So on the download, you get the same utility as an executable. There's also a README file if you need any help. Anyway, I can double click that. That will automatically launch PowerShell and it's up and running. And it's actually faster this way by having it be localized like that. Okay, so here is the utility right here. It can look a little daunting because this is not all the installed software. This is all of the software which CTT has preloaded into basically scripts to allow you to do things like quickly download, quickly delete, and quickly update. So let me tell you what I did in my system upstairs as I was kind of getting used to this. My work system upstairs has seen several revisions of hardware. It has seen several versions of Windows over time, and it's become a little bit, I don't want to say fragmented, but a lot of things are out of date. There's a lot of software I haven't touched in a while, but I still use periodically. And this is where it's actually pretty nice to do upgrade all applications. Now, upgrade all applications I like, because what it's going to do is it's just going to quickly kind of go through the list and say, if installed programs equal programs that are on this list, let's automatically go online, fetch the latest update, download it, and install it all as a command shell or a PowerShell. So it's pretty neat. Watch. So I'm going to do upgrade all applications. Here it goes. It opens a new one. It's now running the script. It's running a update right here, so it's gonna find different packages and versions that differ. Here's all the software. So you can see right here, we got Blender, right? Revo uninstaller, Crystal Disk Mark, Hardware Info 64, fan control, like all this stuff. And now it's gonna start saying, okay, CPU ID, we've got an update, let's install it. Now we've found Crystal Disk, let's update that. And it's a one-touch updater, which is pretty awesome in my opinion. So I'm gonna go ahead and just let that go. That's the first thing I wanna do. It gets all of our stuff up to date. Now, you can do this manually also, and I can't do it while the PowerShell is running. While the PowerShell is running, this is locked out so you don't start stacking up things on top of each other. It can kind of cause a problem in PowerShell. If I were to, say, select different applications, so I just selected lazy git, I'm not gonna actually use it, but anything we were to select, boom, 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 I don't know, random, whatever, right? It tells you how many applications are selected. The cool thing about that is you can now download these pieces of software from here. So one of the things that Phil uses regularly is VLC. VLC is a better player for what we do around here. There's a lot of file types that Adobe may not necessarily, or even Windows may not open by and play by default. So VLC is on here, for instance, and it's broken down by type. So you can download browsers, communication devices like Discord's in there, Slack is there, Teams. So the cool thing is CTT and the community within CTT has kind of kept tabs on like, what is the most like actual legit software people may want and need. So they'll put it in here. So the cool thing is once the installer is done, I could then click right here, install or upgrade applications. So that would automatically go online, fetch them and install them. So again, as you can see, because it's all running a script, I just checked one button and I could go off and be doing other things while that's going. So in terms of keeping your system up to date, keeping your applications up to date, this is a pretty powerful utility for doing that. Just kind of take a look through the list of software. There's some pretty cool stuff down here. Like there's even fan control is in there. Tree size is neat. That at least that tells you, it's a utility to show you where your files are in your system. If you're like, man, where is this like 50 gigs I can't find of stuff? It'll actually help you sort by size. And then you're like, oh, there it is. It's all of that secret hidden mom, don't click this folder that's probably on your system. So that stuff is cool. Let's do this. Let's click OneDrive and let's click uninstall application. So now we are uninstalling OneDrive. So they do have a debloater function. I can't find it personally. I will tell you that the debloater is talked about in the Chris Titus webpage. But I will say this is one of the first negatives, is that's from 2022 and the GUI looks nothing like what they're showing. So Chris, you gotta update it. There's also another thing I'm not entirely a fan of, and let me explain what it is. If I go here, say to tweaks, this is where we've showed you how to tweak Windows. Like we recently talked about Shut Up OS, talked about O&O Shut Up 10++. And the biggest issue for us here is a lot of these tweaks are there, but if you click the little like question mark right here, it's basically a tooltip, but when you click it, it opens up a web page. So this is only going to be as up to date as they keep the website, which I guess also means it's up to date as they keep the app, right? Because you would put the tooltips in there. But what's cool is if you're ever concerned, like, what are they doing? Like, what is the code they're actually running? They display the code right here. So you can look through it and be like, oh, okay, I feel comfortable with this and what it's doing. Most of the scripts here have a activate script and an undo script. So if something ever went weird, you just wanted to run that script manually by yourself, you could actually run that script separate from inside the utility because they just put the code all right here. It is probably one of the most open source type things you're ever going to see. Okay, so let's talk about some of the tweaks right here, which is really, really neat. So you can disable game DVR, disable telemetry. So that's very similar to what we just talked about with Shut Up 10++. And what's ironic about that is Shut Up 10+ is right here built in. So if we clicked that, did I actually click it? There we go. There it is. So the very same thing we just showed you the other day is built in to here. So you could take error downloading and running, probably because I clicked it twice, honestly, because it's already here. But anyway, so we just showed you how to use this. And it's all built in, but check this out. There's a lot more stuff on and whatnot because it's remembering the settings of when we ran this last time because it saves it obviously into the config of Windows. But I just think it's really funny that it's built into this utility. Anyway, moving on, other stuff we can see here, run disk cleanup, enable end task right click, disable Wi-Fi sense, disable storage sense, disable location tracking, like all that stuff is here. So it's pretty neat. The advanced tweaks, I like how when it tells you something's not recommended, like remove all MS Store apps not recommended, that could remove things you need. What I think is really funny down here in the advanced tweaks, you have remove OneDrive, so we'll do that, but also block Razer software installs. That's funny. It sounds to me like at some point, Chris just got fed up with Razer constantly like install Synapse, install Synapse, install. So they were just like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and just bake that in there. You can disable Copilot, disable full screen optimization, disable background apps. So many cool things here. Now you might want to maybe click through each one of these question marks and read up on it so you know exactly what it's doing. I'm gonna go ahead and just do the remove OneDrive right now. Let's see what happens if I try to remove OneDrive on something that's already been uninstalled. Well, it did something, so. Okay, let's talk about over here. So customized preferences, this could just be like, basically it's giving you one place that you can select and toggle things that are in multiple different menus of Windows. If you guys aren't aware, Windows still has the old control panel and a new control panel and an old settings functions plus new settings functions. It's really stupid. It's like they layered the windows over time. So they kind of kept the infrastructure of the old control panel and stuff, but then they made new interactive windows that kind of layer on top of that, but some of it's in the old and some of it's in the new. It's really annoying. So it gives you kind of a one-stop place to be able to do that right here. So you can see snap assist, fly out, mouse acceleration, sticky keys, all that. Show hidden files, that's important. And I like how when you click on something, it's instant. So you can see Explorer just restarted. Watch, boop. Because you make a change, it happens in Explorer, especially when it comes to files. Center taskbar items, you can go back to the old style like Windows 10, you can recenter it. Detailed BSOD is nice. The problem with just the sad face and a code is you just don't really know what happened. So by disabling or turning on detailed BSOD, it'll give you more of like the information about what happened. In fact, if it was shut up OS, I think it was shut up 10++, or one of the recent utilities made it so you can just get rid of the smiley face entirely, because I guess that triggers a lot of people. Add and activate ultimate performance profile. If you're like, what the hell is that? That is another way that the OS can basically schedule the CPU and the process lassoing and all of that to apparently make it even more performance. Now, I've never tested this, I've heard about it. I've never tested it, maybe I will now, because now that it's installed and set as active, if we go back to the power plan, Chris Titus Ultimate Power Plan. So it's a whole new power plan. I have no idea what that would do on an X3D CPU or an AMD multi-CCD CPU. So I would highly recommend you do some A/B testing to see if it's behaving as it should. But I have no idea what the ultimate power plan does. But I like more power. So I guess we'll try that out and see what happens over time. So moving on, let's go over here to config. This is where we get some other things that we can mess around with here. So all .NET framework, Hyper-V virtualization, legacy media, disable search box, right? Windows subsystem for Linux, Windows sandbox. Here are some more options right here for, like I said, those different menus, right? So let's say if I click computer management, that brings up the old computer management page, right? If we click on control panel, that brings up the old control panel, which is really nice to see. Auto login, reset Windows update, reset network, system corruption scan. I clicked that upstairs on my work rig, it like got stuck. So I don't know if my Windows is corrupt in some way, but it got to 62% and never progressed. So I might have to do a little digging there. Updates. This is one of the strongest areas here when it comes to the CTT. Now I want to point something out right here. There's different settings here. There's default, which is just however you have it set up in the Windows update screen. So if you have it set for pause for 1 week, pause for 5 weeks, or automatically get, or don't download on a metered connection, all that sort of stuff, it's just gonna listen to whatever's in that menu. Then you have security settings here, which is a balanced security configuration. So feature updates like whatever, 25H2 may be coming, or 25H3, whatever, 22H4 or H2, right? Whatever they call them. It will delay those for 2 years unless you manually go in and tell it to do it. But security updates will be automatically installed after 4 days. Now that wouldn't have necessarily helped or fixed the problem we're currently kind of keeping our eyes on regarding the Phison controllers and SSDs, because after 4 days, it would automatically, technically install that. But the downside here is you can see it will automatically install critical security patches, but this is only working on systems that are Pro or higher because it requires group policy. Now, Windows Home doesn't allow modification to group policy, only Pro and higher. So this is kind of a moot point considering this is a home install, so it won't do anything. Now, I want to point this out as well, is there is a disable alt updates, which is kind of like what Phil does sometimes when there's like I think, what was the WinArrow, right? We did it in WinArrow where we could disable that. WinArrow tweaker. On my system upstairs, it just ignores that. I would select it and then watch, if I click that, it says its updates are disabled over here. And then even after a reboot, and I'll go ahead and do one now, all the updates were still active and so it wasn't doing anything. And I want to point that out because I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. I'm simply clicking the button, which is part of the GUI, but that was what got people talking about the Chris Titus tool initially, is when we were talking about updates and people were saying, hey, get CTT because then you can get better control over your updates. I don't feel like this is a very in-depth control over updates because you either get default or security updates after 4 days, like critical security updates after 4 days, and then feature updates disabled for 2 years, or all off, which is a fully vulnerable system. Now, all off is kind of how I run like my test bench and stuff for the XOC stuff, so I would clearly want to run that there. But my problem is it wasn't taking effect. So I'm gonna just do a reboot right now, as you guys can see, because I'm curious now as to whether or not it's working on this system, which is an Intel-based system, which shouldn't matter because the OS is the OS. It didn't matter what the hardware was. But let's see if anything changed here. Yeah, see, it wants to reinstall that update we removed, right? We showed you guys how to do that, but it didn't take any sort of effect. It's still fully active. So I don't know why the CTT updates isn't working for the turn off all, or if that also requires a group policy and needs Pro. So if that's the case, then anyone on home, that would not be a very, that's not a big value proposition for using CTT if it's about update control, because you won't have it. So unless I don't know what I'm doing wrong. It's installed and I'm pushing a button and it's not taking effect. So I don't know what that's all about. Now in the tweaks menu, there's a feature here that I really like. WinArrow Tweaker had it as well. That's the Set Classic Right menu. So if I was to right click on the desktop right now, you'd see we get, right, view, sort, refresh, next desktop background, display, personalize, open terminal, and then show more options would bring you this, right, where you'd get control panel and a bunch of the other stuff like desktop setting or display settings, personalize. I hate the fact that I have to like do both. So you could actually, and same thing here if you right click on an icon, right? So if you right click, you get some options with some of the most common stuff up at the top right here, and then show more options get you all the classic stuff. If you prefer the classic stuff, you could just simply select Set Classic Right Click Menu, and then that's the default right click behavior. We have to run the tweaks. Then you get the classic right tweak or right click menu. There it is. But now you don't get any of the new stuff like the pin to start and all those buttons. So you got to kind of make a choice there. By not selecting the classic gets you both. You just have to click more options to get the other thing. So if you just prefer the old way, then you can do that. So that's pretty neat. Okay, last thing, there is a lot in here, by the way. This is just scratching the surface. But now check this out, MicroWin. This is where you can create ISOs that have very stripped down versions of Windows. I've had a lot of people ask me, Jay, because like on my XOC system, I have a very stripped down version of Windows, but I did it manually and it took a long time. And not only that, if I needed to redeploy that, I would have to kind of find the old guide I was following, and that would be a very big pain in the ass. It would be a very big time sink. The cool thing is, why install a fully bloated version of Windows just to wait for all those updates and bloats and stuff to be installed and updated in the updates of Windows, and then take the time to strip it out? Why not just install a fully stripped down, debloated versions of Windows from the start? So if that's something you need or you want, this is how you would do it. Now, I'm not gonna walk you through it right now. All the instructions are right here, but for default, you can see MicroWin features removes telemetry and tracking, fast install using the user local account or the account of your choosing. Hey, guess what? No sign in to your Microsoft account. No internet requirement for install and apps debloat. So it does all of that by default. And then you just need to follow the steps right here to get that going. And then look, it even tells you right here, select your own ISO or get newest ISO automatically. So this is also kind of neat if you're working in an IT department where you need a more like quick deployable version of an ISO that you can just get systems up and running quickly. You can download the latest, right? 24H2 and then get the Windows ISO, which is pretty awesome. So this is a pretty neat feature right there. And I think we're gonna play around with this because the cool thing is you could create the ISO and then also throw this utility on the Ventoy disk. We showed you guys how to create a single disk that could have all your ISOs, whether you're dealing with multiple versions of Windows or multiple distros of Linux. And you can have all your drivers and utilities and everything you need on the same drive. It's not like the drive has to be partitioned and then relegated to nothing but a single installer, which is the way Windows installs work. Ventoy with this is actually a very powerful utility and a very powerful disk for getting that all done. Anyway, that is the Chris Titus tool. I highly recommend if you're gonna use this for two reasons. One, to just get the downloaded utility like I showed you, it doesn't require an internet connection for it to work, whereas the other way it does. And every time you want to use it, you have to run that command again. And then two, it's only 10 bucks to support someone that is doing basically God's work, okay? Anyway, we love to feature this type of stuff. You guys have been yelling at us every single time we've talked about the clickbaity, everyone needs this utility now. This kind of makes a lot of the ones we showed sort of obsolete. I think the only ones you need on top of this is because a lot of the ones we've independently shown are in the app's download list. So obviously they see the value to a lot of those, but this plus Ventoy is kind of really the only one you need, with the exception of maybe WinArrowTweaker when it comes to the updates, because we're not getting the update control with this that I was hoping we were gonna get. But it's like, that's why I said it's like 95% of everything you need in one tool. All right, guys, there we go. We finally looked at it. Tell me why the updates aren't working. In the meantime, download it, take control over your system, because you can get so many things like the config stuff right here. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and just run system corruption scan, let that go for a while. There's nothing wrong with that. And if it finds any corrupted files or anything within Windows that could be causing you hangs or blue screens or issues, it'll fix it. So there you go, guys. Sound off down below how you feel about this tool, if you've been using it, and what your favorite features within it are. Thanks for watching. And I'll say we'll see you in the next one, because I'm sure some utilities might come out we're still going to feature. This isn't the end all be all, but it's pretty damn close.